whether Hong Kong remains a free flow of capital markets remains to be seen. What Beijing, I think, in my opinion, I mean, you don't read this anywhere here. What they want is to eventually meld Hong Kong, Shenzhen into something called the Greater Bay Area. It's going to be one huge kind of metropolis. Right now, it's still different. There is a border, right? Hong Kong is still, well, let's call it autonomous, and capital flow is still free and easy the way it has been. I don't have the answer to that, but I think anyone that's involved in capital markets or will be for the foreseeable future, it's something that could have a very profound impact.
Yeah.
I know for a fact there have been some that have actually left Hong Kong and gone to Singapore.
Yeah. There was a guy in our group. There was a guy before you came, Spiro. He was a hedge fund trader in Hong Kong, and they had the hedge fund was domiciled in Hong Kong. They switched it to Singapore, and he moved his family.
Was he an Australian guy?
Yeah. How do you know?
I know him. Was his name Scott?
No, Chris.
Oh, okay. Well, it's another guy. I know another guy, an Aussie guy. His name was Scott. I think he's with JP Morgan. He used to work on Wall Street. He married an American. He used to work on Wall Street. He moved to Hong Kong. He was regional manager of all Southeast Asia. And actually, I met him here last summer. And he's moved his family to Singapore.
Huh. That's amazing. I wonder, listening to you talk about that.
JP Morgan regional manager, for all Southeast Asia. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's something, maybe it's not, right?
Well, with all, and Emery said that. Emery, feel free to jump in anytime. And anybody, by the way. So one point is, and it just dawned on me, and I could be, again, completely off base, but Spiro, does anybody in HK see what's going on in the United States?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
they're very informed.
All right. And do they see it as kind of a follow-up on what had happened last year for so long in HK?
Well, okay, so I'm going to say this, and it's not a political statement on my behalf. It's just through the lens of my eyes, what I see. Okay. So I've kind of stated how things work here, right? It's expansionist.
Yes.
Right. Generally, I think what they viewed the previous administration, what they did in terms of it was almost like an introspective thing. Okay, leave this accord, leave that, leave WHO, leave this and that, and kind of like, America first, almost like closing its borders.
Yeah.
Right. And for them, I think they saw it as nothing more than an opportunity. Okay, because I think they viewed the U.S. as just turning inward, introspective, almost, closing the borders in every sense. In terms of making America great again meant, well, you know what? There's no expansionism. You want to bring everything home. We're expanding, right? We are. They viewed it as, we are sort of spreading our reach around the globe through all these means, and you guys are just withdrawing. Right. And so a completely different and opposite mindset and tactic to how to tackle the future. Right? And that's my take on what I see here. Honestly, guys, I don't please do not take this as any type of an insult. No. But I will tell you, they viewed what's happened in the U.S. in, the last X period of time as comical.
A lot of us who do too. Go ahead, Emery. What were you going to say?
Well, isn't isn't that part of the 100-year journey for them? I mean, having read a number of things on that base where, they're stepping over that there's only room for one hegemony, and it's going to be them. And so, again, not being political, just talking about
Right.
the path of that the global expansionism type sort of thing, that's still their goal, right? They're not a microwave society like we are. We want it done now. And I mean Westerners in general. We want it done now. We want it done 5 minutes ago. And so I'm not surprised to hear that sort of commentary, because it feels like it's just been part of, hey, listen, this is the part of our 100-year journey, because they felt like there's room for one hegemony at the top, and it's them. It's not anyone else. And so the fact that we are pulling back and pulling in is serving that ultimate purpose in general. Is my
amazing.
general supposition.
Oh,
I actually have one more sort of interesting thing. You guys might find this interesting. Greece, during its financial crisis, after they got the second bailout or whatever, I forget his name right now at the moment, the Greek economist who was the Minister of Finance. This guy's taught in the States and Australia and everything, right? He had actually secured financing from the Chinese for a bailout tranche, and collectively, the ECB, the European Union, the ECB,
I remember that.
they blocked it, and they told them, if you take the money from them, you are cut off indefinitely from us. So my relation,
Wait.
or not my,
Say
I'm
again.
sure.
Sorry, say that again for me.
Spiro.
When Greece was having its financial crisis, okay, they had taken a couple of tranches of bailout money from the ECB and the Eurozone.
Okay.
The Minister of Finance of Greece at the time, who was an economist, right? They brought him in specifically for his abilities. He wasn't a politician; he was an economist,
Okay.
and he had arranged for a financial tranche from these guys here.
Aha.
Okay? Right, and
basically
the ECB, it was Draghi, the ECB, the Eurozone, that if you take their money, you're cut off from us forever. Right.
Wow.
Now, I find that interesting, and something that Ira mentioned today about the ECB and those guys, and they're very manipulative, right? Within Europe and with what other countries within the Eurozone do with, let's say, the Chinese and the Russians, blah, blah, because they need to keep a certain amount of control, and they want to keep these guys here at bay as much as they can. Right. That's my take on that as well. I found that like pretty interesting. It didn't stop the Chinese from taking a 50% stake in Piraeus, though, right? The port of Piraeus in Greece, and the Chinese half is state of the art. The Greek half is dilapidated.
Interesting.
Can we funnel? Is there any analogies to be drawn, or could we funnel that into, that same sense of, money changers in the temple? I guess is in my mind. But could we funnel that into what we're seeing happening today with the Robin Hood people and GameStop and such? It's an alternative. It's an alternative to, as we were discussing earlier. I'm making this point poorly, but the federal the central bankers lose control of the world's money supply, or control of monetary policy, which is why gold is no longer a hedge for inflation. It's a hedge of the central banks losing control of money supply. So is that why the ECB and the Western banking world was so threatened by a Chinese bailout of a European Union member? To me, they seem
Oh, I think
analogous.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I think so.
I know I made it poorly, but I hope I got to the point there.
No, I think I understand you.
It's just crazy and so interesting. So many things going on. And Anne-Marie, to your point earlier about the 100-year plan,
Yeah.
Ira, and we just talked about this too. Ira was talking about the infamous meeting between Kissinger and Xu and I in 1971, when he asked Kissinger had asked about, well, so what's your opinion on what is your opinion on the French Revolution? Nah, too early to tell.
Exactly. Exactly. These
Wow.
guys are on a slow burn. You know, they've been a society longer than anyone else. And, you know, this thing, it's a very good book. I'd highly recommend it. It's called The 100-Year Marathon: China's Secret Strategy to Replace America as the Global Superpower. 100-Year Marathon. It's really, really good. It's very, very good. Also Destined for War, but that one, 100-Year Marathon, it opens up a lot of, I mean, we take a lot of things at surface value very often, and there's not. And so I think you're exactly, I mean, all the points are really dovetailing into this one space where people are going to get bent if they're used to controlling things and all of a sudden they aren't. And we're seeing a little bit of that right now.
Actually, that was what I was going to ask Matt. When we brought Anne-Marie in, you were trying to find the words when I made a point or an question about China pulling U.S. currency out of circulation.
Yeah.
Kind of like that movie Johnny Depp, that movie Blow, where they've got so much money, they're weighing it and they're keeping the money on the boat and they got nowhere to put a box left. And he says, well, we're going to need a bigger boat, right?
Yeah.
You know, do you remember that? So
I do.
I think you were asking about how that worked. And then the other thing I was just wondering is, how did you tie in the ECB and the central bank and just world monetary policy into the Robin Hooders? How did that tie
Well,
together?
it's not, I didn't specifically, it wasn't the direct point. It was more the indirect notion of central bank, the Western central banks losing control of the world's monetary.
Absolutely right. It really is all about losing control of their particular agendas, right? That's
Yes.
really the thread that's connecting everything together right now.
Yeah, you tied that together, Anne-Marie. I was wanting to make sure I understood that. Yeah. Thank you. But then
Well, look, guys. The yuan, if I'm not mistaken, is pegged to U.S. dollar. So I know the Hong Kong dollar is pegged to the U.S. dollar for sure.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure the RMB is as well. Now,
Yes.
China being the largest holder of U.S. currency outside of the U.S. and the dollar being pegged, if their currency weakens, will their holding in U.S. dollar not proportionally weaken? I see absolutely no reason at all for our RMB.
Wait, say that again, please, Spiro.
Chinese are biggest holders of U.S. dollar outside of the States.
The last part, will, if the yuan continues to appreciate, will the dollar continue to appreciate? Yeah, right.
Yeah, if they're no, not appreciate, but it doesn't pay them to have the RMB depreciate, only because of the peg and them holding so much U.S. currency asset, and they don't need to. Like I said, it's as long as the U.S. dollar remains relatively strong, the euro remains relatively strong, right? They can buy them, right? They can buy Chinese product, right? You don't want a 50-cent dollar. They don't want it, right? It'll weaken their currency. It'll diminish ability for both U.S. and Europe to buy their product. At a strong, and that's why I think in a way, I think in a way it's good that the currencies are pegged.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spiro, I got a question for you here from somebody who's not able to talk. So they sent me the question, and so I'm just gonna kind of read it. Maybe you could answer it. He can listen, but he can't. He can't talk.
If I can.
So, well, yeah, I know. Well, this question was. Let me just read it. Make sure, because it involves respectfully asked. Well, America First was viewed as a joke around the world, but if I respectfully ask the question, with the 100s of billions we are talking, with the 100s of billions we are taking debt out for, is for what? How does that benefit the U.S. taxpayer?
Well, look,
in other words, America's like a joke. Yeah, it's like a joke.
No. Well, no, don't. I don't think. No, they're not. No, it's not. It's a misunderstanding, right? I think America itself is not viewed as a joke.
You realize what the question is like? In other words, with the printing of all this money, right? We're just causing
okay,
on debt.
but guys,
America, how does that benefit Americans?
Well, guys, look. I mean, money's been printed. Money in circulation has doubled, tripled since, right? I mean, there's been no, like, the digits keep adding on, and in a pre-2008 world, if that much money was created, we would have been in a hyperinflationary era, and we really haven't been. The only thing that's been hyperinflated is, are the markets, right? Housing possibly, but I mean, we're not looking at 2,000% inflation, right? Has it been 2% a year? It's normal. Now, when I said they kind of viewed it as a joke, I meant more as the internal stuff that was going on. The disconnect.
Yeah, he wasn't offended. Don't misunderstand.
So now the money that's being spent, I don't know if this is a COVID related question or not, because the entire world is putting up billions and billions, right? I mean, this is in some aspects, this is the worst crisis we've ever seen, right? I'm in the airlines. This is the worst crisis the airlines have ever seen, in the history.
And the market's at all-time highs. Perfect, exactly the way it should be.
Hospitality, right? I mean, airlines may never come back from this. If they do, it's not going to be. The picture will not be the same.
No.
Well, and then we get to ask. Sorry, talking over you. Sorry about that.
Oh no, please.
Well, again, that's maybe not putting on my tinfoil hat or anything, but I mean, if you read through the language of what they want the Great Reset to be, that is objective destruction of
everything goes to zero.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's, for somebody at the head of the WEF to go, hey, listen, one day you're going to own nothing and like it. I'm not down with that. I'm really not down with that. I'm out. Oh, yeah. You should read Klaus Schwab. He has so much money. It's just so many tentacles everywhere. And really, the destruction of this kind of industry is the sole goal, to truly bifurcate and destroy all these pieces in the middle, so only that echelon at the very top runs things. And I really hate saying that, but just go read the guy and decide for yourself. Go watch him, go read him. He's a dangerous fella.
No ownership, it's scary.
You know what? I hate saying this too, but I'm going to just directly ask the question, and I don't mean it to be political in any nature. Does China view that they have bought the current administration? Because previously you just said that, you know, in China, they really didn't like the Trump administration because it was about America first. Well, do they view that they bought the current administration? I don't mean that politically. There's just a lot of follow the money. We were talking about that earlier, right? Follow the money. Well, there's been a lot of money followed.
Yeah,
Money followed.
I don't know.
Biden's pockets. So
Yeah, you know,
From
do that.
it's the, like, you know, what Anne Marie was saying and what I said earlier, I think is key. I don't think it's about Trump or Biden
it's not.
as it is about control and about
Yeah,
ideology.
it's all about
Yeah.
the agenda. Absolutely.
Their methods are different. Yeah.
100%.
Their methods are different. I don't think it'll matter to them in, you know, in 50 or 100 years, you know,
That's
on
right.
a four-year administration.
I see.
But
I see.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
but the point I made earlier, it's a very short-term thing, right? It's just, you know, when I say they viewed it as a joke, it's like, look, they can't get their shit together over there. You know, it's a split society. You know, they're squabbling about this and that, and they're all one people, right? And as far as that goes, look, I got to be careful what I say here, but I think from what I've sort of researched, read, seen, I think it was more the Russians playing games at home, infiltrating society and putting things out, you know, people and posing as groups and
Right.
media. I, you know, the Chinese, their tactics were very different, you know, and the two have to be clearly identified and differentiated because they have different tactics. And I don't know how that relates to the markets in any way, but yeah, I think, yeah.
It does. It relates to
It all does.
It relates to what, you know, to what we were talking about earlier in regards to central bank digital currency. It relates to the what we were talking about with Ira in overall bearishness of the dollar, with the Bloomberg Commodity Index skyrocketing, with China buying record amounts of Australian soybeans.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. And not only soybeans,
yeah, right.
They're into everything down there. They're into everything down there as well.
You know, if they have an Achilles heel, it is the fact that they just cannot grow enough commodities to feed their people. They have to get it from other borders. They absolutely have to. I think that's really one of the reasons that they have sort of sneakily slipped into Africa. I don't know if you've read the statistics on how much Chinese money has moved into Africa in the last 5 years. It's a tremendous amount.
That's where that's where the fourth port is. Their major port. I forget what country, but it's down there. Yeah, northeast Africa.
There's another thing too in terms of Afghanistan. I know there was talk of them being in a region because Afghanistan is like heavily rich in rare earth metals. The Afghans themselves can't mine it because they don't have the technology to. But everybody else knows it's there, and China shares a border with them. But I believe they were there, and I think there was talk of them basically building a railroad that, you know, starts in Afghanistan and just goes back into China, mining a lot of their rare earth minerals out and then just pushing it back into China. And
you can see that road from space. You can go to Google Maps and see it.
Yeah, I've seen it from the airplane.
Which road's that, Emery, so I can look it up?
Pardon?
What would
Silk
I
Road.
look on Google Maps?
Smith
Where
Street.
would you look?
No,
wow, I forget what it's
no,
called.
what
Let me look. Let me look and see.
Sure,
It has a name, and I don't know exactly what it is. So let me look right now. I'm right at my system, and I'll tell you.
You can look up Belt and Road Initiative.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yes.
Or the Silk Road. There's two Silk Roads, a north one and a southern one. Okay, and the Belt and Road Initiative, and there's a lot on the web on it. It's very interesting.
So interesting. And
I got to catch up on that. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah.
Hey, Anne Marie, who was the
Yes.
person you had mentioned earlier that said you're going to own nothing and like it?
Klaus Schwab.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, he is the chairman of the World Economic Forum. He's the guy that's behind Davos. He's the one that, okay, do you know how much countries have to pay the World Economic Forum to actually belong?
No.
You have, oh, the fees are ridiculous.
I mean,
Absolutely incredible.
and what's the benefit of it? I mean, like,
Oh, that you're part of an elite group that gets
Right.
to discuss. Yeah, it's
right,
all
exactly. It's a
about,
racket.
yeah, it is 100%. It's all elitism. But yeah, you read about the guy. He's dangerous.
Yeah.
He's really a dangerous person.
Is he, Anne-Marie, and I'm a bit familiar, just a little bit. How close is what I missed?
No, sorry, I'm
No,
just looking
waiting
at,
for the question. Oh,
no, oh, sorry, oh, sorry. You know what? I didn't realize I'm just looking at this about the palace that was gifted by China's with Chinese laborers. That's what they do all over the world. They do that all over the world. Sorry.
Wait, no, where? Oh, China gifted the country new palace. No kidding.
Yeah,
Rebuilt
I
Yeah.
think that's what they do in
It's
Africa too. It's
yeah.
a lot of their mining, but it's all Chinese workers. So those
Yes.
African countries get no economic benefit because then China ships
None.
what they're mining out.
Adam,
exactly.
when you were in Afghanistan, Anne-Marie, Adam, who helped get you in here, is
Yes.
a major in U.S. Army Special Forces, and he's still in active
Thank you
duty.
for your service.
Amen. And he just returned from Afghanistan. Adam, when you were in Afghanistan, did the Chinese have a large presence there in any way, or a presence there?
I believe they had a presence there up in the northern area, but not huge, and not a quote unquote military presence like we had or anything. But I want to say they had a small presence, and again, I think it was all about looking into mining the rare earth minerals that Afghanistan has. But it wasn't big if they were there.
Spiros, the issue, the major Achilles heel that Anne-Marie brought up and that Ira spoke about a lot about is the fact that China has to feed their people and they don't grow enough to do so.
Yeah.
What about those huge farms up in the north that you were talking about in the mainland?
Yeah.
How long do you think that's going to take for them to be able to get their product up and to market so that China becomes less dependent on foreign imports?
Well, it's not that they're not operational. They are. I mean, these are old farms, right? They're not new. They've been there for years and years. Enough to feed their people. Look, there's a lot of people here. Okay, population density here in this part of the world, in every country, is massive, right? Look at the population of Indonesia, right? You have places like Malaysia, Singapore, right? Okay, Taiwan. Taiwan is green. It's lush. It's mountainous. There are farms, but nobody can manufacture enough to feed all there's right. Like I don't know how many billions, right? So and which leads to the other thing that protein for people in this part of the world takes on many meanings, and they eat things that we as Westerners normally wouldn't.
Oh, great
Right.
Right. Like they have open markets with protein, right? Of various sorts. So yeah, of course it's an issue how to feed their people, right? It always will be. And that's why, look, I know a lot of people, when we fly back, when they fly back to it's a sidebar, when they fly back to the States or Europe, they come back with, freezer bags of food for their family, right? Because proteins are different when they buy at Costco or Lidl in Europe and other places, right? Everybody does it.
And Matt, those farms, you were saying like how long, like till they're operational, they literally, I was saying that I knew a bit about that portion because a friend of mine, that I just knew from the beach, was a neighbor of mine a while ago. He was a rep for Walmart, but he was part Asian, and his job was to fly to China and to get that farmer making soybeans to make those little plastic chairs for China. His job was to try to work, I guess, with the government somehow to get them to convert those farms into making cheap product to be sold to Walmart. And that was actually encouraged by the U.S. administration at that time in the early 2000s.
Fuck.
So it's just interesting that that's kind of the same thought. Well, there's a lot of people in this administration that were in that administration. So, but those farms have been operational for, switched over to making products solely for like Target and Walmart. I mean, that was his job, convert them into cheap factories. So I think that's
Interesting.
yeah, exactly.
One thing I can say from what I've seen here in my time here, back and forth and all over the place. I mean, I fly from here to all over the world. I've been lucky. I've been fortunate in the sense that I've got to see by air many things. Right? You fly over Kazakhstan, and you see the fires from the burn off from the oil wells at night. Like I say, I've seen windmills in the top of mountain ranges all over the Asian and European country. Right? Fly across the English Channel, and there's windmills everywhere. Right, the northern Scandinavian countries in Northern Europe, who kind of lead in a lot of things in technology and energy, the high tax countries, they're way ahead of us in the Western world in terms of alternative energy. Whatever anyone's thoughts are, I know energy independent, non-dependency thing in the States, but I think it's time to look beyond that, and coal jobs. You have it's the era to look beyond that into it. I don't think it could be one or the other. Yeah, look, I think we have to reduce carbon emissions globally. I don't know if you think global warming is reality. I would beg to differ. I've seen Siberia and the Siberian ice pack in many miles of it from different angles. And I can tell you that about 1 million square miles of it is vanished. All right, so
Well,
if
I
that
mean,
means anything,
we have like I think the problem with that is like we have nuclear technology. But everybody's like, oh, don't build any more nuclear plants, but it's the most like efficient and cleanest
it is.
energy we have. But because it's nuclear and everybody's afraid
Well,
that you're gonna have a
look,
Chernobyl.
France has been 80% nuclear for decades and decades, right?
Mhm.
Japan, the problem in Japan, and Japan being a mountainous country, a small country and a mountainous country, they put that nuclear plant. I actually have a picture of it, right? That plant was right on the coast,
Yes,
right? It's
Fukushima.
right in line. It's like on the ring of fire.
Right, like not the
Okay.
best look.
No, it was. So if you want to build that, maybe inland, right? It was just. I think it was a mistake of where they located. Nuclear energy is not a mistake. It's
No.
location, right? Don't build it on top of a friggin' volcano, or where
And
you're gonna have chances of a tsunami.
Yeah.
well,
All right.
it's not just that. A lot of it goes to what Anne Marie's point was, that if they pass, like for example, there's talk, whatever the outcome is, I don't know. Again, nothing political, but re-entering the Paris Climate Accord. Like right now, the United States is completely energy independent. Well, if we can't frack, for example, for natural gas, and there's talk about even going after the oil companies, Well, isn't that in a lot of ways just saying, well, hey, United States, you can't keep your own money. You've now got to use that money to buy oil and whatnot from other countries. So the question is, a lot of that nuclear stuff, Adam, for example, goes back to maybe what Anne Marie said about those in charge don't like change. They don't want the system to change. They want to control the money that there is. So is nuclear power really an issue, or is the issue where the money goes from the other alternative methods of energy? So that's
Good
kind of
point.
always the question, you
Good
know?
point. Look, there's yeah, the disposal of the waste is an issue. You know, they've talked about rocketing into space, burying it in Earth, whatever. With the technology that's known today and what will be known in the next 10 or 20 years, that should not be a defining factor, right? It's a matter of being able to do it safely, you know, as far as not having another Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island or, you know, this stuff, which countries do. You know, Canada has nuclear energy safe. France has never had an issue. You know, I don't know what other countries off the top of my head, but many do. And, you know, it's relatively safe. So, but windmills work too. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of them out there, and you may not like the looks of it, but I don't know. Like I said, and that's just in Siberia, right? Siberian ice pack is shrinking. I guarantee it. I've seen it. You may
I
not think, you know, it affects you. You may not think it affects you, but like somebody said earlier here tonight, it's one Earth, right? We share the globe.
Yeah.
One thing about nuclear power, I'm just like curious if this is correct or not, that from my understanding in France, they only have like one or two designs and one or two major companies doing it. Yet in the United States, it's like every single plant is built differently with different parts, and there's, you know, that's where a lot of the problems come, the design.
Could be. I don't know enough about that myself personally, you know, to comment on it, other than what I've sort of stated. But yeah, you're probably right. I know it wasn't GE, Westinghouse. They're all into it, right? I don't know. Um, you know, in French society, for all their faults and benefit, you know, they keep things pretty tight over there, right? Very sort of socialistic country, but they don't let a lot go beyond the scope of their control either. In, you know, in many different aspects of their society. Right? Anyway, you know what, guys? My phone is about to die. I'm like at 2%. I don't know if I've already lost you, so I'm going to have to say goodnight.
No, you're here, Spiro, and thank you, brother. You know, listen, um, these excuse me, these conversations are are so vitally important for all of us to
Yeah.
not just understand capital flows and market, you know, implications, longer term implications of of global macro issues and how they're going to not just affect the markets but affect our lives. But ultimately, they don't.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter in our trading unless we learn how to manage our risk properly, and unless we learn how to manage ourselves and everything that we work on every day. I know a lot of people that are incredibly brilliant macro analysts that couldn't trade a micro account positive. And there's, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, because I certainly can't hang in a conversation with those people either. I was joking earlier about when people would come in from people come into the NASDAQ bit when we were talking about Ken Griffin and with their daddy's money and their trust funds, and I'm not talking about my kids, other kids, and their B school, you know, their B school, business school. Oh, where'd you go to business school? Chicago, University of Chicago. Where'd you go? Here. I started here when I was 19. I loved when those guys stood next to me and they could sit here and hold a conversation like this and run circles around me and make me look like a mope. But over the years, I've had to work incredibly hard on not just developing a trading process that would be consistent and repeatable, but also scalable and protective. But I've also had to work even harder on making sure I stayed in my own lane, and make sure that I stay true to this process. Remember, our lives, our personal lives, will reflect back on into our trading lives. My spiritual life and emotional life will be reflected back into my P&L. So we take all of these things broadly, all of these great ideas, and funnel them all the way back down into our daily lives with our families and those that we love and care about, and transpose that into growing our family's capital, both physical capital and money, but also emotional and spiritual capital as well. I'm very grateful to have every single one of you guys here, and thank you, Spiros, for jumping in and sharing with us 17 years of living in Hong Kong, and all of the wisdom and knowledge you gained, and just Anne Marie, I'm so grateful you're here, and I hope that you come back as often as you can, and I'll let you know next time Ira comes in.
That'd be great. I'm honored to be here. I always learn something every time I get to be around you and the folks you keep company with, and I really mean that.
Oh, and oh my gosh, whatever you're getting from me and us, I can tell you I get 100 times more from you every time I speak with you.
I appreciate you saying that. That's kind.
Thank you so much. No, it's not kind. It's true. It's very true.
Thank you for all your insight on Twitter and stuff too. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions?
Appreciate it.
Before we jump off?
Guys, ask her questions, because I'm in her feed. I read her stuff. How many books did you author, Anne Marie? Two?
Two. Mm-hmm. Two.
And you guys aren't
I've been
asking
trying to
questions?
write a third one, but you know what? It's so hard. It's so hard it's hard. Writing is hard.
I haven't gotten past the first page of my book. And what I've gotten to was, anybody remember that book, that movie Misery with James Caan? And the very first page you wrote, F you, F you, F you, F you. That's as far as I've gotten.
Anne Marie, I have a question for you then.
Of course, of course.
I have a question for you then, if nobody wants to ask a question. And the question would be just if there's, and again, in your opinion, just from you're clearly an expert, author of books. In your opinion, what do you think the most important thing for all of us to know, or the most important few things that we should all keep in mind, or that you see that that through your lens that we might not be able to see? Is there anything that you can, while we have you, just share with us that you think would be helpful, or something you see very important, or anything you just like to say, please?
That's a very thoughtful question, and I don't think that I could say anything that really Pax or Ira or anyone else here really with this group could say, but I do notice this. I notice that we all know, hey, listen, manage your risk, manage your risk. But the reason we have to keep chanting that to ourselves is because when we start looking at this big picture and we develop all our cognitive biases about everything, it paints a cloud on the way the candlesticks send us a message. And I think the thing to say is, remember that you are at the whim of all the information that comes in, and the part of us that needs to be cognitively aware and not sitting in a space of bias, that's really it's the focal point for me every single morning. It's pretend like you know nothing about what's happening outside of these candlesticks. What are they telling you? And once I can establish that frame of reference, it's okay to engage in all of the things that we're looking at. But as someone who is very, very sensitive to all kinds of things that might be popping around over the place, the big thing is, wait, how is what I am hearing, how is it affecting my ability to trade properly? We all have a thesis, but that thesis, if it's wound up in some kind of cognitive bias, you won't even see your risk. It will be absolutely invisible to you. And so that key event of keeping yourself in that premise of, okay, this is what I surmise is going to happen. And as long as the signals keep coming to tell me that that is the case, I'm going to keep going in that direction. But as soon as those signals start contradicting, there's that space where you go, hey, I'm out. And I see a lot of people not quite being able to do that. And I really, I mean, like the GameStop business today, I think would be a really great example of all of those things. But that really would be the only thing that I would say.
That was incredibly profound, and thank you. And it's interesting that you said that, because my last question for you, and thank you, that was truly a profound statement. And my other question was
Appreciate
going
that.
to be that, what opinion do you have on this, the whole Robin Hooders and this whole thing that's happened, you know, where you have a bankrupt company or a company in and out of Chapter 11 trading for $3, you know, 2 weeks ago, you know, now trading for, you know, well, obviously it's going to go limit down, but you know, they had that up to 300. I mean, what's your thought on that? I mean, I know we have our opinions, and I believe yours will be the same, but, and then I don't know if you read that they were selling their information to Citadel. There's an article in here that you could take if you want to read it, but do you have any thoughts on that whole thing besides?
So anytime your trades are free, the way revenue is generated is that your order flow is sold to someone. So we've known for a long time that Citadel was selling that Robinhood was selling the order flow to Citadel, right? That's a way they make revenue stream. So that happens all the time, every day, everywhere, anytime somebody can sell the order flow and make 1/10 of a penny per share, they're going to do it. So that is what it is. If you have an account at Merrill Lynch, you have to go through all these kinds of hoops to trade futures. They won't let just Joe Normal trade futures. If you have, even if you have a couple of $1 million sitting at Merrill, they're going to make you jump through all these other hoops. So in these big brokerage houses, there's a sense of, listen, we want to protect you from yourself. And there's something to be said about that.
Oh, I agree.
But in the grand scheme of things, you know, everything swings the pendulum. Everything comes out. It's like, it's, oh, great. Anybody can trade on Robinhood. And, you know, you saw that story several months ago about that kid killing himself because he was, you know, $500,000, $600,000 in a margin call. And my thought is, who in the world runs money controls over at Robinhood to let something like that even happen? So that's the one thing. But as far as this business, they're chasing it up and they're chasing it down. I'm I am a super pragmatic person. I'm like, listen, you want to play with that? Everybody's telling you that this, that, or the other can happen. You want to do it? Have at it. But don't come crying to me when you're feeding the pigeons, because I got nothing for you. You know, if you can actively click the button, I'm not here to save you. I am not Mother Teresa. I'm not here to save you. So these guys want to go crazy with stuff. Everybody's telling them, hey, listen, don't, whatever. If they keep doing it, here's the thing. People have this idea that somehow we have some kind of power. We don't. We are the marionettes on the strings. And the people at the top of the houses with all the money and all the power, if it doesn't start working for them, they're going to change the rules and we're going to be left out in the sand. So that's just, it is what it is, you know, and I know that that's very harsh, but you know, I've been trading in the markets for 20 years. Give me a little slack. But I mean, seriously, this is my thought about this. Do I think Robinhood should be as lax as they are in terms of people trading with certain margins? I think Robinhood's decision to move this is part of their own systemic risk. If they've got all of that going out there and all of a sudden the pendulum swings in the opposite direction, that's why they're out getting more credit this evening, or whatever it is that I just saw flash over the screen. So that is my very animated response to that one.
A larger credit line. They were.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
This is my thought. I mean, and that's why TD Ameritrade did it. That's why Schwab did it. Listen, their books, if that swings in the opposite direction and they are holding all that.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I'm curious, and that's why they did. Yeah, they closed those accounts. But I'm curious, and Matt, you know your opinion as well. You got basically, well, clearly Robinhood knows what's going on, and clearly, you know, we all get the Twitter feeds. We all know Wall Street beats, all that garbage. You have people there that are literally acting as if they have a Series 3. They're literally telling you, buy this, hold this, sell this now. I mean, they're literally acting, so to speak, as a fund manager.
Where, Phil? Where are they doing
on
that?
on those sites?
I haven't gone to look into them. I haven't looked in at all. The only thing that I've seen about those sites is what my 21-year-old pot smoking,
if you go
snowboard riding son is saying.
If you go look at like today, you'll see like whatever you do, don't sell GameStop, stick it to the man, whatever the case may be. I'm just do you in any way do you see any of that as like a violation of it's because it's on the internet. That's the thing. But it truly does go against. I mean, they're literally telling everybody what to do.
But like, see, they've band together as a group with a leader that, listen, everybody's got buy-in, and the buck stops right here. Unless you need a bib and a spoon to eat with, if somebody goes, hey, buy this, are you not a thinker that goes, well, maybe I ought to think about that? But see, no, people get caught up in the frenzy.
For sure.
So do I become draconian and authoritarian and say, no, you can't think for yourself, so I'm making that decision for you? That goes terribly with teenage children, and it's going to go terribly with grown-ups on Robinhood. It's just not, I mean, you can't, people are going to do stupid crap. They're people. We do dumb stuff all the time.
It's
and
also
I think
desperate,
this is,
right?
Yes, exactly.
Desperate times,
exactly.
Desperate measures for desperate people.
Exactly. And so, I mean, I understand that you saying, wait a second, how could that be right? It's not, it's not, it's not wrong. It's not wrong to go, hey, listen, I want you to vote X because that means that you won't have to pay this tax after the fact. Or everybody's in the moment of influencing. And at some point, when this all goes belly up and, they're up a creek without a paddle, this truly is going to be the next Michael Lewis novel. It truly is. The
Oh,
next,
sure.
Absolutely. But
Very good.
something's going to go terrible and everybody's going to go, see, it's not my fault. And it's just going to blow up into, but at the end of the day, it is individually, if I go in and blow up a trade because I see somebody or I do something that shows me, oh, I should be doing that, I'm still making that decision. And so, I'm all
Well, but
about.
yeah, I'm with you. I'm being all about that. But for example, Emery, like you can't come in here and say, okay, everybody sell even. Okay, everybody sell even. Okay, now cover at 85. You can't do that. So how can they do that?
No, I could do that. I could
Well,
do that. But see,
you might have your proper licensing to do that. To
no, I understand what you're saying. I'm saying the point is, in a closed room, I can do that, right? If it's you, me, and the fishes, and we're talking about, hey, well, I'm buying here. I understand what you're saying because we have a big voice. If I have a big voice and I get out and I go, I'm buying at, I understand I'm manipulating emotion because somebody's going to go, oh, she said this, so I'm going to do this.
That's okay though. You saying I'm buying even, I'm selling 85. That's one thing. Not saying
you
to
buy
2 million people,
I
you
see.
guys all buy this.
Okay,
You guys
I
all
see what
hold
you're saying.
this,
I see
and
what you're
I'll
saying
tell
there.
you when to sell it, and then I'll
Okay.
tell you when to sell it.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on, and that's what I was
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
my
Well, you know what? I
you
see your point
and
there.
Matt.
I see your point there. I do. I see your point there. I mean, a lot of people are going to get hurt. I mean, it's just a fact because it's the market and everybody gets hurt. The market's goal is to make us feel pain. I think that's the sole goal of the market, to make us feel pain. So, I mean, people are going to get hurt, but I don't think you can come out and go, hey, stop doing that. Because it's sort of like, I mean, you could say it's inciting, but still, I don't know. I don't know how they can tell you, hey, don't do that without stepping into, you're stepping on my freedom of speech thing or whatever. I don't know.
Well, that would be something new. Stepping on freedom of speech.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I was just curious. I was just curious what Matt, Matt's probably the most respected, largest NASDAQ trader, one of the most respected futures
Ever?
traders.
Yes, absolutely.
And you have your expertise, and so while I have both of you on the other end of this, I have friends that have gotten themselves into that scenario with that, and some of them not so smart and some very smart, but I've researched those forums and I've read them and I know what we talked about in here. We have to choose our words carefully, and how we say things. And so they're not doing that, but it's unprecedented because it's on the internet. And since it's fractional orders, it's sitting on a server that then can be sold. So Citadel could then front run all those orders.
And but they've been doing that since the first day Robinhood opened.
Sure.
That is the slimiest thing, and that in itself is I don't know if it's
remember, Phil, that's what we were saying earlier on the trading floor. Those are the things that guys in Chicago had gone to jail for. Where in New York, I can have a 63 bid on 5,000 Microsoft shares, and a specialist trades through me, and that's okay. Well, wait a second, you traded 60, I'm 63 bid. Now you're unable. I'm not unable. I'm the best bid. Well, I think it's a very similar thing.
Yeah, exactly.
These guys have been doing this forever, and they're front running it. Everybody does it. It doesn't make it right, and everybody does it. My gosh, I sound like my daughter. But my God, I can't believe I just said that. But you know what I mean. And it's not just Robin Hood issue. It's just this is the issue du jour. We've got Powell said it yesterday, and I wrote so spot on today. Powell in his press conference said that there was he admitted to 10% unemployment. 10% unemployment. If we've got 10% people still out of work in this country, and those stimulus checks have not come yet, how desperate are people to feed their family?
Yep.
I remember how desperate I was after MF Global failed and took a few million of what I had left with it, and I had to throw whatever cash I had into my trading account, and I was still 100 lot, 200 lot Pax, and not 1 lot Pax that I was after I had blown myself up. And to start to relearn how to apply everything that made me a successful trader back onto the screens in the second phase. And so it's a tricky world, and people are in tremendous pain, and we are how did Spiro say it, a divided nation, but how many divisions are there?
Yep.
Oh boy, it's going to take generations for it to heal. But and how what is the exit strategy? What's the Fed's exit strategy? I've always been asking that since as long as I've known him. And who am I? What do I know? I know.
I don't even think they know.
No, and that's scary.
I don't either. I don't either, other than, as I mentioned before, which would be like they did in 1869, moving away from the gold standard. They'll move away from physical dollars. They'll say that it spreads COVID or whatever because you can touch it. They'll move to a digital currency, which can't have inflation. They'll call it whatever, USDC, whatever. It'll replace the dollar, and they'll say, hey, we're going to buy back every dollar bill that you have for 60 cents on the dollar because that's all it's worth, because there's no inflation. And then they'll use the difference of that money to balance the books. That's the only way out. And I know that sounds crazy, but it'll be the largest transfer of wealth of all time. And I do know that the House of Representatives filed for a digital currency.
Yes, I did read that also. Yep. And if you follow Danielle DiMartino Booth, she talks about the Fed talking about she talks about the FOMC and them discussing digital currencies inside. She said they've been doing that for a while.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that would that be is that one of her latest works, or is that something that?
Oh no, she's been talking about that. Yeah, if you go to Quiltelligence, trying to think about, she said that on a YouTube video, and so yeah. Let me see if I can get the article. Hang on.
Wow, what an incredible day, huh? We have
Sarah
and we have Anne Marie in here, and
no doubt
we have Matt, and then we had Spiro. Wow, what a great day.
And you, Philly, and you.
Oh man, I'm just the guy asking the questions for those who might not want to. But thank you. Far too kind.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, Matt. I appreciate it. It was great.
Really, thank you. Do you want to, Anne Marie? Do you want to jump on with Danny, or do you want to reschedule that?
Let's reschedule that.
Yeah.
Let's reschedule that. I have a roundtable insight. Let me see if I can link it. I'll send it to you, and so that you can see where she's talking about the Fed.
Thank you.
Discussing cryptocurrencies and what they need to do about their own currency event.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
This is Mark.
Oh,
by
it's
the
my
way.
pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Alex, I see your question, but maybe Anne Marie or Matt can answer that. I can't answer that. Don't hedge funds do that? I don't know.
Do hedge funds front run? Alex, is
Yeah.
that what you're asking? If yeah, I guess it depends on what you mean, but there's many different ways that they can. Yeah, the only ones that can't. Look, I remember hearing this expression early on in my career as a clerk, and as I grew as a trader and matured, it took on completely different meaning. Is what we're doing as independent traders, retail traders, or locals, what we were known on the floor, is simply picking up nickels in front of a bulldozer. If the Fed doesn't like, I shouldn't say the Fed, if again, tinfoil hat time, if the powers that be don't like what we're doing, they're going to change the rules. And
You betcha.
Absolutely. And whether it's direct and seen or indirect and unseen, the game will change. And if we're not able to change with it, then we will end up drowning.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's like, I think like the scary thing about, for me at least, like if they do go to a cryptocurrency, I mean, as it is right now, money that's in your bank account is just ones and zeros anyways.
Exactly.
I mean, then it really is ones and zeros, and whatever they manipulate and say, hey, sorry, yeah, I know you thought you had X amount in your bank account, but now it's a quarter of X amount, and there's nothing you can do about it.
No, isn't that kind of, can't they do that now, Adam? I mean,
and that's what I was kind of meant. Yeah, I mean, with your bank account, it's just ones and zeros now. I mean, they can, but I think with a cryptocurrency, it would even more cement that ability to do that, and just have that control. I mean, if physical money goes away, that control.
I mean, they can wipe out the debt like that.
That was my exact point. That's I've been saying that
Delete.
for a couple months. So I've been saying that for 3-4 months.
Delete.
Yeah, just delete. And wouldn't that be the world?
Somebody hit the power button real quick. Let's reset.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a nice reset?
Yeah. I think have you ever seen like these, like, I think they're two Australian guys, like Clark and Dawes on YouTube. A few years ago, they have a bunch of things about the kind of European debt crisis and all that stuff, and it's just hilarious, but it's all spot on. Of I mean, just the banking and money industry. It's pretty interesting, but I mean, they're obviously joking, half joking, half serious, but it's kind of scary when you step back and think about it. I go, no, they're actually kind of right.
I saw there's a Netflix series, and I don't know what the hell it is, but Jen had it on the other night, and I watched part of it. The chips in our debit cards are nothing more than listening devices. When we were in Miami and Fort Lauderdale a couple weeks ago, I brought a bunch of cash with me, as I always do. I guess I'm old fashioned that way, and I came home with almost the exact amount that I left with. Couldn't use cash anywhere in Miami or Fort Lauderdale. Everything was on a card. At the hotel or at the resort, everything was charged to the room, or on a card. Period. And I am 52 years old. I still don't have a credit card. I've got it in my name. I've got corporate cards, but nothing in my name. In fact, nothing. As you guys know, nothing. I have nothing in my name, including my cell phone. My cell phone, I think, is in Jen's name. But anyway, those chips on those debit cards are what they used to plant, during the Cold War to listen in and to get info, and they record literally everything that we do, we do.
Well,
and
it's all part of your social credit score. That's it. And that's the reason why you can't use cash, because they want to know what you buy.
That's
it. Know what you buy from, and that's going to be your social credit score.
And that's exactly, and that's why moving to a digital currency, they now, and I mentioned this, but Anne-Marie, you weren't here. Dr. Wood, who wrote the Ethereum code, they actually had paid him to now try to, blockchain was supposed to be about autonomy. Well, in that bill that the House had written, it was about flipping the script. It was about by saying issuing a digital currency. If we give you money for food stamps, well, that currency is coded only for food. You can't buy anything else with it. It'll decline. But at the same time, if they don't like something that me, or you, or Matt says on Twitter, they can just code all of our currency and say, well, you know what? You guys can't travel. You're on the do not fly list. So that they can actually use the digital currency as a means of control. That's
right. As I was saying earlier, I mean, like a few years ago, I think it was after like the Parkland shootings or something, they tried to like pressure Visa to not, basically, so you couldn't buy guns with a Visa or something like that, right? I mean, and that same thing would go on to say, hey, no, so hey, the Second Amendment isn't necessarily, gone, but you're not allowed. I mean, nobody's going to take that transaction of no company, no Visa, American Express, or any of them. Yeah, we don't process those purchases, whether it's guns or something else, but.
All to be concerned about.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and we wonder why the advent of oh my Lord, Merrill Lynch makes millionaires jump through hoops, yet the advent of $500 a day intraday margin futures trading accounts morphs into something as crazy as Robinhood and GameStop, which is a probably fair value for that. Who knows where the fair value for that stock is, and yet trading at these astronomical levels. What, Phil?
I used to buy it every winter because it would go up when kids were at home and sell it, and it would trade between $7 and $13. It was $3 a month and a half ago. That's what it's a bankrupt company. You would trade video games. My wife used to do that. You go in, you buy a game for $50, and you're done playing it. You take it in, they buy it back from you, let's say for 30, and you buy another.
Yeah, so, but you don't need GameStop for that now. The kids do that.
That's what I'm trying to say. They've been in and out of Chapter 11. How do you get they ran basically a bankrupt company from $3 to $346.
Okay.
Okay. Do you remember what started this, though? The CEO of Chewy, when he left Chewy, he said, you know what? He bought 10% of the GameStop open stock. He just went out and just scooped 10% of the entire open, whatever was out there.
Yep.
And then he joined the board of GameStop. And when he did that, that's when the buying started.
Was that Michael Burry?
No, not Michael Burry. No, it's not Michael Burry. His name is Steve. Heavens, I cannot remember what his name
Burry
is.
buy a whole lot of it too?
Chewy. I did hear that Michael Burry bought some, but that's not what Chewy. No, what's his name? Stephen. Let me see.
Cohen.
No, it's not Cohen. Yeah. New board member of games. Additional board members, 3 activist board members. Who is the new one? I cannot remember who it was. No, it is Ryan Cohen.
Yeah,
I don't know why Steve.
Cohen.
Yeah, it's Ryan Cohen. Yeah, he's from Chewy. And and that's what started it. That started it.
So what's wrong with that?
Nothing.
No, absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I think they're turning. Yeah, I mean, I think, he's thinking of revamping everything. Everybody's got, I mean, look at Chewy, man. Chewy's been a beast.
I
And
know.
so
I
they
have a
think
friend
he
who
can
worked
do
for
stuff.
Chewy.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
crazy.
he had to quit. The growth was so insane. He ran the logistics in the
Oh,
Northeast
wow.
warehouse, and
Wow.
he said the growth was so absolutely insane that he had to quit because it was just out of control. The growth, the
Yeah, I believe
Amazon
it.
for animals.
And at the same time, Matt will remember because it was the '90s. What was that one company, kind of like Chewy, that went from like, well, no, you were on the floor then, and what was that one company went up to like $400? It was like a dog company. They had stores around. It went up like $400 and then went completely
PetSmart.
bankrupt.
Smart.
Pets.com.
Bark.
PetSmart. Yeah, that's it.
It was Bark
Not
or
PetSmart.
something.
Yeah,
No,
that's
not
it.
PetSmart. It was
Pets.com was the .com one that blew up.
Yeah,
that was
It
what
was
was the
started.
pets.com.
That's the one. Exactly. That's the one I'm talking about. Yep. And people got crushed in that.
All right. So
Yeah.
I missed part of the conversation today. So, these guys, are they given a pass because they have so much risk on? It's like trying to turn, a cruise boat around, that they can't get out of their risk that quick. Because for us, it's all about risk management. If I can't get out of a position, then, that's on me. What,
Yeah, I
thi-
think it's their fault. I think they're so used to shoving people around that they just said, you know what?
Well, look what
That's
happened when crude went negative, right? The models, the risk models weren't prepared, weren't the VAR models weren't set up for negatively priced, flat price crude. So, the CME came out and basically said, okay, crude's going to go off the board here. It is allowed to go negative. They put out a note to,
Yeah,
they
I remember that.
they said, hey, listen, and I think it was I forget what trade station I said to the CME, you gave us 2 weeks to basically. They told the shops, they said, hey, listen, crude can go negative, and they said, well, you know what, we can't program our VAR models to account for negatively priced flat price futures in 2 weeks. So they couldn't handle it, and then I forget who came out from the CME, basically said, hey, by the way, crude is allowed to go negative, and then it was just a spiral down from $20 to negative 40 at that point. But you these guys must have, I don't know, maybe their VAR, I mean, the tail risk was so huge that they couldn't get out of the position in time. I mean,
I was explaining that to a friend today. What good's being in a position if you can't get out of it?
right.
Oh, been there.
You're
Me
in a
too.
position. Look,
It sucks.
Look at
Bad.
Oh my God,
right.
it's like a bad dream.
Look at just GameStop today, right? GameStop today goes again, off the board at negative 56%, right? It's kind of like being in like a trade that goes limit down, and as soon as trading opens up again, bam, limit down again, and that's kind of like what GameStop did. It just opened and went bam down 56%, shut off. You can't get out. Now you're down 56%. And so what good is it? Are you going to leave with any money?
I mean, so there was no, I mean, yeah, they ran it. There was no offers on it. Like when the market's tanking limit down, there's no bids. The bids, and it's like that vacuum. It's
right.
that,
Nobody's
it's
that price.
Now here's a better metaphor or analogy is being long hogs, front month hogs, and having them go limit bid and sitting here thinking, I've got them now. Lock limit bid, close, reopen, limit offer, and you can't get out.
Yeah.
And
I was just telling a friend that.
Wow. Okay, so this just flashed across my Reuters feed. The U.S. House Financial Services and Senate Banking Committees said today they will hold hearings on the stock market after users of investment apps face trading limits following the Reddit rally that put a charge into game stocks and other volatile stocks that were touted in online forums.
Wow.
We must deal with the hedge funds whose unethical conduct directly led to the recent market volatility, and we must examine the market in general and how it's been manipulated by funds and their financial partners to benefit themselves while others pay the price, said Maxine Waters.
Oh boy.
What? Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
they're going to
right.
target short selling.
Yes, they are. What Milton Friedman right now,
heck?
Milton Friedman is spinning.
Remember you couldn't short sell in 08?
I do remember that.
You couldn't short sell.
And watch the market, it just fell off a cliff.
Yep.
I totally remember that.
But that blows my mind, because without short sellers, Tesla wouldn't be, where it is
Exactly.
right now.
Exactly.
Short
They're
sellers,
going to spin this into some bullshit thing. Here it comes. Here it comes.
Waters added the hearing will focus on short selling, online trading platforms, gamification, and their systemic impact on capital markets and retail investors.
oh, please, look who the statement came from.
What?
It doesn't matter who it came from.
No,
It
I
matters
know.
that
I'm
it
just
came.
saying. Right. No, I'm not in disagreement, but it just goes to fundamental lack of understanding of how markets work.
Yeah, exactly.
Without those
It's
massive
really
short
true.
without those massive
Yeah.
short squeezes, like Tesla would not have been where it was. But guess what? Tesla was a Wall Street beats what do you call Robin Hooders thing. It was all of them buying the Tesla calls that created the gamma squeeze.
Exactly.
Because what happens? You buy a call. Tesla's going up.
Exactly.
Well, the market maker doesn't want to be short. If he sells you the call, he's short. So what's he do?
Exactly.
He has
He's got to
turn
go buy
around
the
and
stock.
buy the stock,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So then it creates this massive gamma squeeze. I had a friend of mine with a huge position in Tesla, and I could not get him to take profit. You have no idea what's going on. Like, people aren't buying this because they think it's worth this much. So it's not that at all. And and consequentially, GameStop's in a big short squeeze. But the fact of the matter is, I guess what my point is Maxine Waters and those people that issued that statement probably don't even understand the distinction between the two.
I don't think so either.
I agree, Phil.
Most of them
They're
don't.
Gonna spin this,
Yeah.
They're going to spin this into some
Yeah.
overreaching regulation.
Always.
Right.
That's
Always.
what's going to happen.
Because they
Hey,
don't
guys,
understand the
this is Shelley.
fundamentals.
Do you know who this reminds me of? Is our German friends that can no longer trade with us
Oh,
because the
Shelley.
government put them out of business.
Shelley,
And
that's
that's
wonderful.
my hugest fear, is that this is how we make our living. What are we going to do? I mean, we've
Exactly.
got to fight this.
Yeah, you're
That-
100%
Shelley,
Well,
all I
right.
thank
can think
God it
about.
was stock. Thank God it was equities, not futures.
What,
Yeah,
Mark?
but we're right behind it though, Mark.
Exactly.
Yeah,
think
it'll
so.
still-
Comfort eventually.
Gonna be interesting.
Well, you know what? I mean, futures a little bit tougher because the futures business, I need it to hedge, so to lay off risk.
Mark
Yeah,
does physical crude,
that's true though. I mean, that is really true. That's how they're used too, right? So different
Yeah, he
different
does
ball
physical
wax,
crude.
yeah.
I mean, all these
Yeah.
congressmen are in on the stock market and have some insider trading crap going on anyways, so they should know the game.
Yeah, Pelosi bought a ton of Tesla at the end of 2020 and Apple, and then
Yep.
They're all
we'll figure out right before it split.
yeah.
I don't know why this popped into my mind, but I tweeted this.
Hillary Clinton and the hogs, Matt.
That's a horse of a different color, no pun intended. But that Martin Niemeyer poem from Germany. First they came for the socialists, and I didn't speak out because I was not a socialist. And then they came for the trade unionist, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. How
Yeah.
scary is that?
It's true.
I forgot about that, Shelley, and you brought that up not long ago. And about Michael is still around, but I don't. Michael, we had a couple of traders, Lars and Michael from Germany, and one of them, Anne Marie, moved his. He has a second house in Bari, Italy, and he's moving his family to Bari, Italy, so he can be domiciled there, so he can continue to trade.
Interesting.
Yeah, and wow, to even think about this is.
Matt, wasn't it a regulation that taxed them so much that they could no longer, it wasn't feasible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a tax, right?
Yeah.
And that just ran them out of business.
It was a tax.
They do that. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Phil.
I was just gonna say, don't they do that from what I understand to some Canadians as well. Like Canadians can't trade certain products. that, like you would know better than me, but I think there's a distinction between like CME and like CBOE. I know that there's certain products like they can't. I don't think they can trade the Nasdaq, for example. I wish Billy V were here. Long time ago, well, 5 years ago, we traded with some Canadians, and they had enormous fees on just certain products, and there weren't on other. And I wish somebody from Canada were here that would know, but I don't remember. I thought maybe you guys would, but same thing like Germany, I guess now.
Yeah, it was like they taxed the way that like their earnings from futures came in. They changed, which basically made it, you know.
Yeah, hold on, guys. Anne Marie, thank you again. Have a great dinner. I'll give you a shout tomorrow or the next couple of days. I still want to talk to you about coming down and getting together when we head out down there to kind of see the area. So just have a great meal, have a great dinner, and thank you so much for the conversation. We'll talk.
Yeah, thanks, Anne Marie, for coming in. It was great.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
You're welcome. Anytime. That link is good forever.
Thanks, Anne Marie.
And Danny, we'll reschedule. And also, Jakey, we'll reschedule as well. Our one-on-one for tomorrow. We're supposed to go away with my brothers to Michigan on Saturday. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I really don't feel like being hungover for 2 days because I can't drink like them two maniacs.
And it's Michigan.
Well, yeah, Michigan's nice. Snowy.
In the spring.
It's our buddy Casey McDermott, who we call our fourth brother. He's got a house there, and he just invited my brothers and I.
Tell him you'll see him in May or June. You're already in Chicago, so it's already cold enough for you.
You know what it is? It's just an excuse to get away with my brothers.
That's great.
But this conversation, this is like I say when we get off with Ira. This is what makes our group unique. This is what makes the spirit in here unique and wonderful and beautiful, And in the conversation with Spiros, with Anne Marie, with you, Phil, so very well done, and everybody's input, questions that were written, spoken. That this is how we grow, and we didn't agree with everything each other said, but it challenged me. Like Jimmy Sassoni earlier was talking, and that challenged me to take get another perspective on something, to widen my gaze. Listening to Anne Marie speak, same thing. She said she always learned something. I don't know how she would ever learn anything around me. When Anne Marie and I talk, I listen, just like with Ira, and I ask questions. She is. If you guys aren't familiar, I don't know. I should have read her books. I haven't read any of her books.
Don't tell her.
Yeah, and it's not because I'm lazy. Because I love reading. I'm like 800 pages into Infinite Jest, and I still don't understand it. But hopefully, when I get about 1,000 pages in, I will. But the point that I'm making is her story. You guys, if you're not familiar with Anne Marie's story, go back and watch the TV show she did with Credelli, or I don't know if it's in her books, but she's a self-taught trader. She taught herself. And
find it.
Huh?
The link. Can Adam find a link while you're talking
It's
about
on
it, maybe?
YouTube. It's put her
Oh,
me and Danny and I. Was that the day that Danny? Was that the day that we filmed with your dad? And Anne-Marie was there. I think it was. I think she filmed an episode of Credelli's show, trading futures.
It was.
But yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, when Mick and I, it was the first time Mickey and I. Well, we had breakfast, not long before that, but it was the first time that Mick and Danny and I got to hang out. Second time that Mick and Danny and I hung out together for a while. So here we are talking and yapping and talking, and then Anne-Marie and Anthony start their show, and it was hilarious. Anne-Marie, well, we quieted down so that we're not going to disturb anything. But then when we started to hear Anne-Marie talk, we all stopped talking. We started to listen to Anne-Marie. We weren't quiet to, not make noise. We were quiet because what she was saying was worth listening to. She's a self-taught trader, and she talks about that, I think, on the show. She had lost, her and her husband have many kids, more than I do. And I think like 7 children. She had pulled them pretty close to the brink of insolvency financially, and they were very comfortable. She had lost almost everything that they had in just her first few years of trading. And then she peeled it back and put herself through the paces of very similar story, I guess, to me, now that I think about it, is she peeled back and hyper focused on building a proper trading process that worked for her, where she was able to build a career and to build wealth, and plenty of it. Talk about people like Hall of Fame traders, Mickey Norton. We were talking about Mickey earlier. I was talking about Mickey, 89 years old, still trading. It's amazing.
Thank you, Adam. Posted the link for that interview with Anne-Marie.
Yeah,
and
very good.
Mark, thank you. You never fail to post good stuff. He posted the link of Hillary Clinton's wonderful.
That's awesome.
For lack of a better word, scam to make $220,000 on. Hillary Clinton opened up her own hog account and traded live hogs and made
with Blair
$200,000 in a day. Yeah, she filed the paperwork herself to open up her account. Of course she did.
What was the name of that guy? He's a billionaire. Blair Hull.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
you know the story better than me.
It was Blair Hull that apparently did the trades, and I think he ran for Senate a few years ago in Illinois. It's an ugly thing. And I, you want to, hopefully if we ever, well, there's some people that aren't too afraid to talk about that story. I don't know enough about it to talk about it, but others do. Hillary.
Well, there's the link Mark posted, so everybody can check that.
Hey, Matt, thank you for a
Sure.
great day today. This was just, I'm going to go on Twitter and tweet about it because it was an awesome day. I mean, just think about all the mess. Like every time I look at Twitter, it was so negative and nasty. Think about the right here in our group.
Yeah.
With Ira, you, Anne-Marie, it's been a great day.
It has been a great day.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you.
I appreciate all you guys too. Man, we've got some diverse, smart people here.
Boy, we do.
So interesting. Learn something new every day.
Every day. I mean, really, every day. Today was a beautiful. I texted that to Danny. I don't know, 40 minutes ago. What a great conversation.
Good. The only thing that would have made this day better is if ES would have stayed up there in the ether instead of coming back down.
You got mushed.
Hey, it did exactly needed it to do, Adam.
I got mushed. He texted me. I won't, go with it, but he texted me or he messaged me about. Oh yeah, Spencer, and we had a great fucking one-on-one too, didn't we? That was awesome. Oh my gosh, Exor and I. Oh my lord, and Spencer and I today. Oh gosh, I can't tell you how privileged I am to be a part of all of you and to be a part of this group and to work with people like Spencer and Exor and Bill Giles and Filler and Danny and God Almighty, to have met people like Pocket through the years and Yanni and get to go to Florida and take Phil out for dinner, and oh my God, you guys don't have any idea the how full my heart is. I mean, just with gratitude and love, and I mean that. I mean it. I mean it. Frank and I are texting back and forth about love and beauty, and Danny and I. I'm just so happy.
Well, Matt, we're happy too, because everybody that's been here for a while surely knows that you don't need this money and don't do this for the money. You clearly can make your own living trading, and this is something you choose to do to help others, and we appreciate it, because you can't pay guys like you enough money to teach us what you teach us, because guys like you don't need money, because you're successful traders.
Phil, that's a good point.
World, so thank you.
And thank you. Yesterday, Shelly and I were talking about that in a different way. But yesterday was a huge day for me financially. But my heart was not full. I was adrenaline was pumping. I liked it. It was fun. My heart's full now. All day it's been full. I really do not know how to express to you what a conversation that I had with Shelly yesterday after the close meant, or in a one-on-one. Now, it wasn't even a one-on-one. It was just a conversation. One-on-one will be Saturday. Me and Exor yesterday, and Spence today. And Jakey and I were supposed to reconnect in our first one-on-one today, but our conversation went long. Making the kind of money yesterday, that, as I always say, it feeds my family, but this feeds my soul, and that's important. It's important because it helps me. It helps me. You guys help me in. You guys help me be such a better trader, and I don't mean that like a teen girl movie. You help me be a better man. I'm a better trader because I have to be sharp every day. I have to be sharp for you. I don't trade the different markets that I did 2 years ago. I don't trade cattle as often as I used to. I haven't traded hog spreads in over a year. I don't even trade crude as much or gold as much as I used to. But I'm much more focused on equities, and I'm trading them very well. And we all are, and we'll have another 100 days like we had yesterday, and another 100 days like we had today. And we're all, if we put ourselves in the right frame of mind, and if we work really hard, like Anne Marie did, like I did, like so many of you did and are, continue to work to put ourselves into that right frame of mind, that right mindset, then those big, huge days over the course of this year will happen to all of us, whether it's $900 or 9,000 or 108. It doesn't matter. It'll be there. The money will be there, but not when we press, not when we push, not when we force, but when it's there, because we work hard to put ourselves into the right frame of mind, because we work hard to stay sharp, because we work hard to stay sober and alert, because the devil is prowling like a roaring lion looking for souls to devour. I don't know why in the hell that scripture reading just popped into my head, but it seems apropos.
Well, Matt, you know what? You don't probably view it this way, because fact, you are the largest NASDAQ trader in the world. You're probably No, fact. By CME Group, we traded more NASDAQ contracts than Goldman Sachs. Fact.
Oh, that was during a brief period when I had my head so
Doesn't matter.
far up my
It
ass.
doesn't
It
matter.
wasn't
Just
something to be
listen.
proud of.
Well, it's okay.
Okay.
What the 1% of traders that are long-term profitable like you, the problem, the reason so many fail is that there's no amount of money that anybody could pay you to teach this, to teach and help us. You have to want to do it from the goodness of your heart, because that's the conundrum. The 1% of the really great traders, they don't need money. And so therefore, struggling traders can't afford to pay them even nearly what they would need. So they got to want to do it. So thank you.
But
for wanting
Philly,
to
that's the
do it.
thing, though. See, is I've been there before, and I've been and I blew it. It was taken away, and then I blew it. Right. I'm so terrified about blowing it that I'm almost afraid to spend money. And not only that, I'm so afraid to get back to that. You know what? I wouldn't say afraid. With different things going on health wise and all of the stuff that I'm concerned that if I stop feeding my soul, that I fall back into old patterns of behavior. So this group and each one of you guys becomes as intricately important, or no, intrinsically important to me as Phil, as you express it, I am to you, because it's yes, this is what helps me stay focused. This is what helps me protect myself and to continue. Does this make sense to what I'm saying?
It does, and I'm happy to hear that in some small way, this small group of us can benefit you. That's joyous.
Yeah.
That fills my soul.
Good man. Thank you. I'm gonna go find my family and go eat dinner and go congratulate Marguerite for making honors at Mother Macaulay, although I don't think that's much of a feat between us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Yes, sleep with the angels and the saints, and today is I don't know if we've ever had a better example that none of us fight alone. And thank you guys. I love you all, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.